Hey there, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for joining me on this special edition of the Final Bar. All this week, we're focusing on 5 hidden features of StockCharts. I've been using the StockCharts platform for a number of years, probably about 20 years or so. And I first was introduced to StockCharts when I was trying to learn technical analysis. And in the early 2000s, I was studying for my CMT exams, and I was trying to learn technical analysis so I could have better conversations with my clients at the time. And I was pointed to the StockCharts chart school, and I learned about RSI and the ADX line and all sorts of breadth indicators in some way by looking at the chart school articles and learning from the wisdom of John Murphy and Arthur Hill and others who shared so graciously their expertise in technical analysis. But over time, I've used the platform more and more, and really since joining as a chief market strategist a couple of years ago, really focused on using the platform and digging into all the parts of it. And it's been a fantastic experience. I've learned a great deal. I've uncovered a lot of areas of the platform that I found I had not used very effectively, and it's made me, I think, overall, certainly a more well-informed investor. So I've shared with you a number of different things. Today, I want to focus on the CandleGlance function. And it's kind of, I guess, a misnomer to call it a hidden features because I use this feature every single day on my show. So it's not necessarily that hidden, sort of hidden in plain sight. But I don't really show you some of the really cool parts of it, probably the most effective parts, things I use in my own investing when I'm using the CandleGlance function. So I want to share with you some of those things here today. Now, the CandleGlance function, what you basically do is you first need to get to a chart list. So on your dashboard, if you go to chart lists, these are all the different lists of charts that we have. I'm just going to take the Dow 30 stocks because it's a decent list of names that we all know. And when you click on View As, you can see some of these different options. And I'm going to select this one called CandleGlance. Now, what's neat about this is it essentially what it does is it takes a little small thumbnail image of each of these charts and puts them on the page for you. Now, when I was at Fidelity, we actually used to print out a lot of charts. We'd print out a lot of things. We had printers raging, printing out little images of charts, and we would hand draw a lot of ideas on those. And one of the common activities we would do is take a pile of charts and then separate them into good charts, bad charts, and okay charts, simply put. And then we look at the good bucket and start to differentiate the really good from the kind of good, and then the bad bucket from the really bad to the kind of bad, and then the okay bucket, which are more positive or negative. And eventually you could sort of take a list of names, a portfolio, an index, whatever, a sector, and you could break them into the strongest to the weakest charts. That very manual process with a bunch of paper is a very, I guess, non-technology version of what you're showing here with the CandleGlance function. Sort of like throwing a bunch of charts up on the table and then being able to start to differentiate them. What's cool is we have a lot of built-in sorting capabilities to allow you to do that. So when you first look at it, it's going to do it, in this case, in the order of the chart. So I'm starting with Apple. I just have these in alphabetical order from Apple down to Walmart, so alphabetically by ticker. And you'll notice if you bring up the CandleGlance function on your chart, you'll notice that your charts may look a little different. That's the first thing I wanted to point out to you. What I'm doing is I'm using a custom style for my charts. This is my standard 1-year daily chart with the 50 and 200-day moving averages. It's kind of my go-to chart when I'm just trying to look at a stock for the first time and just sort of understand what's been happening. I'll start with this, and then I'll look at some other things afterwards. So I thought it would be great to make the CandleGlance function focus on that standard view for me. The way I did that is at the bottom of your screen, you'll see this little listing that says you can customize a setting and indicators for your charts by creating a chart style with the name CandleGlance. So literally, if I bring up one of these, you'll see that I'm actually using a chart style that I literally called CandleGlance. And so our chart style function is actually a really powerful feature. You can create a chart, you give it that name, and our platform basically just looks for a chart style with this particular name, and then it'll show that as your little preview chart. So you can make this look however you want, and that's what's going to be reflected here. So I would take, if there's a go-to chart that allows you to have a good starting point to analyze a stock or an ETF, make that your CandleGlance chart. And then when you switch to this view, you can jump around them. Now, we also have some pre-canned views that are pretty helpful. For many of you, it probably starts looking like this, which is a 2-day view, pretty short-term view. This is similar to what we show on our dashboard page, just trying to show you where we're at today versus where we were yesterday. Now, it's a little too short-term for me, so I usually spend a little more time on the 2-month view or the 6-month view, because it gives just a little more runway, a little more detail about what's happening. So if I'm trying to focus on what's just happening since the March lows, the 2-month view is probably a pretty good place. And this is actually really easy to see the candle patterns too. So when you start to see a bunch of bearish engulfing patterns or hammer candles pop up on your chart list, this is a really good place to recognize that sort of signal that's happening. Now, what happens when I'm looking at one of our standard chart styles is these other parts of the screen start to wake up. So you can actually add an indicator onto these charts. So for example, RSI is a common measure of price momentum. So sort of showing you, where the price is at relative to where it usually is, basically, right? So looking at price momentum, an RSI of 50 basically means sort of neutral. The up and down days are pretty even. If the RSI is above 70, it's overbought, meaning the stock has moved too high too quickly, and most likely short-term pullback could be soon. If the RSI is oversold, it means it's moved too low too quickly, and you might have a short-term reversion back to the upside. So recognizing which stocks are where in their RSI is a great way to take a big list of stocks and order them in a meaningful way. Now that I've added the RSI and I can change the settings if I want, to the right, I can say descending. And what that's going to do is immediately reorder my list and show the strongest uptrends down to the strongest downtrends. So I'm starting with the highest RSI. I can see a couple of these names are overbought. Merck, Amgen, a couple healthcare names. Also, United Healthcare is really, really close. It's actually right at 70. And those first four are the only ones that are overbought. Johnson & Johnson is the next one. So 3 out of the 4 overbought names are in healthcare. One consumer staples name, Walmart, right there, which is overbought as well. Now, I just showed you one of the cool things. The point of this isn't just to have this be the ending point. The point of this is to recognize, all right, P&G just broke above its 200-day moving average, and McDonald's just broke above its 200-day moving average. Kind of interesting. You can then click on it and then do your traditional analysis, different chart styles, whatever you'd want to do to whip around different looks at the chart. So I often will look at like a weekly chart to see how this recent upswing fits into the last 5 to 7 years, where we're at in the phase of that longer term trend. So I found the chart, the candle focus function is a great starting point. It's a great way to take a list of things and just kind of put them on the pile together. And again, by using this these indicator tabs, you can actually sort from strongest uptrends to strongest downtrends. So let's resort this list in ascending, which means we're going to have the lowest RSI at the top, and we can see which of these stocks are oversold. Now, none of them are technically oversold with an RSI below 30, but if I look at the weakest RSIs, I can see the stocks that are having the most difficulty right now. I can see Goldman Sachs just breaking below its March low. So while the S&P, the NASDAQ are just coming off their February highs, Goldman's actually breaking down already through its March low. JP Morgan really, really close. That might be a chart I want to jump into, set a price alert. Same for Home Depot, Disney, and others, where I'm seeing that they're actually approaching a key price level. But by sorting it in ascending order, we can see the weakest trends to the strongest trends. I just want to point out a couple more things here to finish off. If you have a really long list, what's cool is we now have an autofill feature. What we used to do up until about a week ago was we would have you load them by pages. Now what happens, even if you resort the list, it's going to automatically fill in when you go to the bottom of the page. So you can have hundreds of stocks in the chart list, and you can be flipping through them and just going through one at a time, jump in to make a note or to save your thinking on a particular stock, and then continue on with your process. So the CandleGlance function just recently upgraded with a nice feature there. Let's go back to this example of like JP Morgan or Disney or something, or Home Depot. Disney is a pretty important name, right? When I look at this, it's been in a downtrend, right? And I'm noticing this basing pattern here in 2021 when we broke down below 170, really 168 or so. It was a significant breakdown, right? Gapping down through key support. From there, we've made a fairly consistent pattern of lower lows and lower highs. So let's say I want to be alerted as to when this level right here is broken, around 128. What we want to do there is use our alert system. So if you go here to your alerts and say price alert, I want a new price alert. You say Disney. The moment I enter this symbol, by the way, it's going to give me a little preview. I can see, 128 was the level I wanted to get. alerted on. So I'm going to say, tell me when it crosses below, and I want a text message. I'm going to update my mobile number and hit save alert. And what this is going to do is, however I do it, a site notification will prop up with a banner on the top. Text message will hit my cell phone or mobile device, and email will actually send me an email to my login email and let me know that that alert has been triggered. So really, the CandleGlance function is a great way to sort of take a starting point, see which names are having particular issues, which ones are breaking out that you want to, you want to focus in on, which ones are breaking down that you may want to cut losses on, or think about your downside risk. Using price alerts from this screen can be a really helpful way to just make sure that you don't have to just keep looking at the CandleGlance function, right? Things like CandleGlance are great when you want to take some time and review what's happening with a list of stocks. But we also have features like the alert functions that I mentioned, our scanning feature, which now includes scheduled scans. So you can run every day and say, tell me which stocks are making a new 1 month low, and use that as a list of names to just review. So there are ways that the StockCharts platform can actually work for you and do some of that legwork and keep you on top of things that are happening. The last thing I want to point out is just kind of a funny one, the point and figure charts. I found with point and figure charts, these are names that a lot of people are not necessarily, or indicators that people don't necessarily use a lot. This can be a great way to look at a list of stocks and see what those patterns are. So here I'm still sorting it by the RSI, and I can see the weakest trends, and I can see how they're point and figure charts. Many of them have given me sell signals recently. Not all of them though, right? Some of them are still actually holding up. If we go to descending view, we'll see some of the strongest uptrends, and I can see these buy signals where a column of X's is going higher than a previous column. Those are also things we can scan on and automate as well. Tell me with this list of names, which stocks are getting a new buy signal from the point and figure chart. That's something you can automate. And even for a chart list, you can say, for this list of 100 names, my portfolio, whatever it is, tell me when the point and figure charts are being triggered. So a lot of times I find people use stock charts just looking at one particular stock, right? I'm looking at Amgen and I'm just trying to analyze the patterns there. Functions like CandleGlance actually allow you to think more like how I think an equity investor should, which is a reminder that Amgen is just one of thousands of stocks you could buy or sell at any given moment. Take a look at some of the other patterns out there, see how Amgen relates to some of these other names. And I often find when I use the CandleGlance function, the scanning tool, the alerts more regularly, ideas tend to surface on their own, right? I'll find names that are working that I might not have been looking at on my own. And when the platform is telling me ideas by looking at some of those key triggers that we identified today, then it's just it's allowing me to focus on where I can focus and let StockCharts do identify some of the opportunities when I'm not paying attention to it. This was a rundown of our CandleGlance function, one of the great features on StockCharts.com. All this week, we've talked about 5 hidden features. If you have any questions on these features, by the way, hit our support desk. They're there to help you answer questions on your login and how you're using our platform. There's a lot of great content that we didn't get to this week, but I hope you will take some time to review. For StockCharts.com, I'm Dave Keller. Be well and stay safe. Have a good one.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're gonna bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.